All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview where every single week I interview top real estate professionals, top entrepreneurs, and strip top badasses out there dominating their space. And today we got another amazing, epic guest here on the podcast. I'm so excited to share with all of you. But real quick, before we jump into this podcast, make sure to check out gsdmode.com for more additional free resources, more additional free training. And on there, I highly encourage you to schedule a 100% free 60-minute long Zoom strategy coaching call with me personally, where it's going to give us an hour together to do a deep dive into your business, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are for your real estate business, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are, what your current situation is. And then based on that information, I'm going to map out my best recommended strategy to get you exactly from where you're at to where it is that you want to go. So if that's something that you're interested in, get 100% free, zero strings attached, just a way for me to help support you for all the support that you continue to give to this podcast. Go to gsdmode.com. You'll see a banner right at the top where you can schedule that. All right, let's jump on in to this epic GSD Mode podcast interview. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip where every single week I interview top real estate professionals, top entrepreneurs, and strip top badasses out there dominating their space. And today, guys, we got another amazing epic guest here on the podcast. This dude is by himself out there closing 100 plus transactions, even in this downturn, and just continue to crush it inside of his real estate business in Detroit, Michigan. So really stoked and honored to have Nick Harris on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited. Thanks for having me and definitely excited to jam out with you.
Yeah, man. So before we get into, because again, you continue to grow and scale. We were talking before we hit the record button here of not only are you continuing to do high volume, but you're continuing to grow your price point as well. And I know right now is a challenge for a lot of people. You know, transaction volume's contracted. So I'm really excited to get into all the stuff that you're doing now. But before we do so, man, like what led you into what did you do before you got into real estate? And what led you here into this industry in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually had really no intention of becoming a real estate agent. It wasn't something that I dreamed of as a kid. I was an athlete growing up, so went to college, played college baseball, got my degree in health and exercise science. Out of college, became a strength conditioning coach, and then became a personal trainer. And then COVID hit, and gym kind of went, in flux. Didn't really know what was going to happen. So I was training some of my clients. I was working at a higher end gym, like the Diamond Club of our area. And so in conversations with all of those clients while I was a personal trainer, I was hearing common themes, and all of them were investing in real estate. And in college, I had been self-teaching myself a little bit, self-education, YouTube University, podcast, books, just knew I wanted to get into real estate investing. My market is pretty good for long-term buy and holds. And there was just common themes. So real estate just kept popping up, popping up. When COVID hit, I made the transition, started looking for some other opportunities, and a family friend of mine suggested a place that was hiring, which most real estate agents and definitely loan officers will be aware of, which is United Wholesale Mortgage. Started working at UWM as an account executive, business to business, never saw the client, wasn't involved on the actual buy or sell of the transaction. I was just working with the loan officer or the broker. And we ended up, one of my team members ended up getting COVID. We all got sent home for 2 weeks to quarantine. In that 2 week span, I decided, you know what, let's do it. I'm going to study for this license. Then that was week one. Week two, took the exam, passed it, went back. I said, hey, here's my 2 weeks. They gave me a promotion. So I stuck with it for a little bit. And then I'm like, you know what, I just want to jump into this full time. For me, when I put my head to something, it's like, I'm going to do it. And so I was like, I was committed to this mentally, and we were in a position, my wife, now fiance at the time, I mean, we had a good savings and we were ready to go, and didn't have any kids at the time. So felt like now was the time to jump into it. And so went from, went from personal training side to getting involved into real estate on the loan side, and then went full steam ahead as a real estate agent. That was kind of the transition.
Yeah, so this is all shit, dude. 4 or 5 years now? I mean, was this all 2020 when this took place?
Yep. Yeah. So really quick. I mean, I've been seeing success for the last couple of years, and really took off. And like I said, it was because of that mentality of like, I educated myself beforehand, right? I had some degree, a short period of time in real estate, some real estate experience or knowledge on the loan side of things. So when I jumped in, I knew at that point I had been studying and talking to top producing real estate agents, because when I jumped in, I wanted to do it well. right? Like I knew I wanted to succeed. So even in that like interim phase of like, am I going to get into real estate? Am I not? I was talking to top producing real estate agents in my market and some other agents that I knew in other markets just to pick up on common themes. Like, what are they doing? What's working? Of course, everything works for someone, right? Like there's a ton of different things, but what were like the big nuggets? What were the 3 to 5 things that I could pick up on and really dive into it? And so that's what I did.
So then, okay, what were those 3 to 5 things? And then walk us through like what that first initial maybe 12 months looked like from when you identified those to, what business looked like to, I mean, because it's getting through that first couple years for most, dude, that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. For most people, right, it's we always hear like, hey, you got to give it your first 3 to 5 years, right? Because that's when you're going to start to make a name for yourself. You might have some repeat and referral business at that point. You have a little bit of a name for yourself. And so for me, one of the first things was having brand recognition, right? And most agents think that that comes down to the brokers that you're with. Sure, it can play a role, right? If you have an office and people are driving by it, but they're still working with the agent specifically, right? They're looking for an agent, they're not looking for a sign. And so or a building. And so brand recognition was one of those things right away where I wanted to get it out there, not be the secret agent. I wanted to get it out there that I'm now a real estate agent, right? For me, it was I had all this education and knowledge from the real estate investing space, also the loan side of things, that I could actually speak to some of these things, even though I hadn't had an actual transaction yet. First couple of deals, I lucked out. Family members were looking to buy or sell like within the first couple of months. So I did luck out timeline wise with family and friends who were trusting of me without having a transaction done yet. But the first one is just brand recognition. Like get it out there that you're a real estate agent. So for me, that was a handful of different things. But what I suggest to a lot of agents, especially if you're brand new or you're not doing any transactions, show the day to day, right? So like for me, I'm pretty heavy on Instagram. And on my Instagram, what I would do is anytime that I was calling around a neighborhood or I was circle prospecting or I was calling for sale by owners or expireds, if I was going to a showing with a client, or even if it was just for training purposes for me of like, hey, there's 10 houses within a mile of me that are up for sale right now. I'm going to go out to these homes, stock up on some social media content that I can put on my stories that makes me look busy, because if I'm putting it on my stories that, hey, look at this cool feature of this house, or, with this or that house, or, this funky thing, like people started to get to know me because I was constantly posting about what I was doing on a daily basis when it came to real estate. And it was just keeping that out there, right? I think the second piece is a lot of agents get into that, like with brand recognition. A lot of people get into real estate and they're like, well, I don't want to bug my friends and family and people that know me and reach out to them. Like, I don't want to ask for business. Completely fine, right? Don't ask for business ahead of time. I did not ask for business right away. What I did is I came in and I reached out to absolutely everyone that I knew. Said, hey, I'm just getting started in real estate. I'm sure, as you know, I was on the lending side of things. Just started my career as a real estate agent. Super excited about it. My goal is to help X amount of families this year. If I could ever be of assistance to you, helping for in my book is giving you a comparative market analysis. It's letting you know what the comparables are selling. It's giving you a couple of recommendations for painters and handymen and contractors. Like, how can I bring you value? I'm not asking to help you buy a house or sell it. And then anyone that you come across that might need any of these things, connect them with me, and I would love to have a conversation with them. I appreciate you helping me jump into this career, right? And so those are like the two things that I did. And I've been running a play that for the last, since I started, I call it my SOI 5. So what I do on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, is I go into my phone contacts. I try to get everyone, like I have a CRM, but my phone contacts is where I want everyone to be at the end of the day, right? And so I add everyone in my phone contacts, whether that's people I knew 20 years ago, close relatives, distant friends, high school, middle school, college. And I go A to Z. I start with 5 people a day. So I'm going to start at A, and maybe the first one is Aaron. I'm going to send Aaron a video text message, just catching up. Nothing about real estate. It's just, hey, Aaron, was just going through my contacts. Man, we haven't talked in like what feels like forever. Would love to catch up with you. I hope you and the family are doing well. If I saw something on social media that they just took a vacation, whatever, I might put that in there. But it was just about starting as many conversations as I could, because I knew at the end of the day, those conversations would lead to business or what are you doing for work and so on. And that's a play that I still run. I run that every day, Monday through Friday. I send 5 video text messages. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. I do it in a t-shirt. You don't have to be dressed up. And I found that it keeps me in contact with everyone within my contacts at least once a quarter, just on a video text message that takes 5 to 15 seconds. So in addition to that, I know I'm getting a little long-winded on this, but so
Yeah, I love it, dude.
brand recognition. So getting it out there, show the day-to-day, show what you're doing, show you're active in real estate. Number two is just reach out to people. You don't have to ask for referrals. You don't have to ask if they're looking to buy or sell. Just provide value. Give them something of value. CMAs, contractors, handymen, some type of vendors. The other thing was a lot of people were afraid of outbound outreach, and a lot of my initial business before my name became known within my marketplace was outbound. And I really found that I meshed well with circle prospecting. And so I use that on a couple of different platforms around listings, around buyers that go under contract, and around neighborhoods where, I can say I have a buyer, right? If I have a buyer looking in that specific neighborhood. And so I got used to the outbound game pretty quick because I had metrics on that of I'm going to reach out to people on a consistent basis. For me, it was Monday through Friday. I'm going to circle prospect for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. I found that I put a timeline on it because I could never predict or I was never in charge of the actual contacts, right? And so if my goal was 25 contacts for the day and I only hit 15 or 20, I got discouraged or felt like I needed to spend more time on it rather than saying, hey, I'm committing to an hourly 2 to 3 hours a day, whatever it was based on that day. I'm going to do this for 2 hours or 3 hours. And when it's done, it's done. If I don't have appointments in the afternoon, I'm going to get back to it. But I found that really helped. And I don't think enough agents capitalize on the business that they're doing, or even the business that the agents in their office are doing. If you're on a team, the agents on your team, where you have one listing or a buyer go under contract, or you have a buyer that's looking, it's an opportunity for you to take unlimited listings across the map, right? But if most agents get stuck in the thought of, well, if I do have a listing, because my for sale sign is in the yard, all of the neighbors are going to know and come to me and ask me to sell, right? And I can say that for me, I sell over 100 homes a year. I have never had someone call me and say, hey, I saw your sign in my neighbor's yard. We want you to sell the home as well. That comes from having that conversation with them, letting them know, hey, I'm the agent that listed the house down the road. Do you know of anyone looking to buy in the area? Typically neighbors, no friends or family, somebody who's looking to do so, and then provide value on that call of, if there's ever anything I can do, give you an estimate of value, send you vendors, let me know I'm here to help. If you ever have any questions, reach out. So that was another piece of having the outbound. The third piece of it was actually creating the ideal client avatar that you want to work with. I was very broad to start. And specifically in the beginning of my career, I targeted investors. So it was creating funnels around how can I get in front of investors, have them view me as the expert and the experienced real estate agent within that little world. And how can I get as many of them to reach out to me rather than me having to go outbound all the time? And so I created funnels within my business. Now, like we were kind of talking before we hit record on this conversation here, is I've completely shifted that, but my client avatar has changed, but I took the exact same principles and strategies that I was using to target investors. And now I'm targeting people who are looking to get out of their home, sell it, and upsize. Like that's a very specific, it doesn't, some people will say, and I coach a handful of clients, some people only want to do probates. They only want to do divorce listings. They only want to work first-time home buyers. A lot of agents fall into this trap of thinking, well, if I niche down, I'm not going to have enough people to work with. I can guarantee you that if you do that and you're viewed as the expert in that one target area for that one target demographic, you're going to get more business than you would than staying super broad across the board. So that's one thing that I really learned early on and focused on is how can I get after one client avatar, build funnels around that to actually bring them to me.
Hey, Joshua Smith here with another quick sponsorship plug. Hey, I'm not sure if you heard the recent news, but I recently made the decision to partner with eXp for my real estate business so I can take my real estate business nationally and globally. And if you're interested in learning about what a partnership together could look like and how we can grow and expand and crush it together at hitting our real estate goals, if you'd like to schedule a 100% confidential, 100% zero pressure Zoom call with me to again discover what this partnership could look like, how you get 100% free access to all of my coaching, training, mentorship, support, and how we can go out there and crush crush it together, go to www.gsdmode.com/partner. And again, this is just a discovery call where we can learn and go through and unpack what a possible partnership could look like together at EXP. And I hope to talk to you soon. Yeah. Riches are in the niches, man. So I love it, dude. All right. So we got your 3 pillars. We got building your brand awareness, really using social, and I'm sure other things, but really leveraging social for that. We got your SOI 5, and then for new client acquisition, really hitting circle prospecting. So what have you done to start targeting? Because I love, dude, my favorite niche when it comes to the traditional side of business, my whole entire career. And, I've been doing this for a long time now, about 20 years, and has always been that kind of last move up buy of their lifetime. Like 40 to 55-year-old age range, married couples. They still got kids, junior high school, but they're buying, so it's a good solid price point they're buying, and they're in peak income earning years, so they have the money to buy it. But then typically they also have a home over here that they've been living in for some time that they need to sell.
Yep.
So I'm like, now I got two commissions, same amount of energy, effort, or cost per acquisition if I'm doing marketing dollars. But I've never done it through circle prospecting. Like it's, for me, Facebook ads or open houses, right? So when you're doing this from a circle prospecting, how are you identifying that ideal, like niching down? Because circle prospecting is kind of known a little bit more of a shotgun versus a sniper.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, again, it comes down to, there's a couple of ways that you can kind of do this, and the circle prospecting piece I'll get to, but like first thing is figure out who that is, right? Like you're very specific on who that ideal client avatar is. I was very clear ahead of time of like, I wanted to work with investors looking for long-term buy and hold properties. Now I'm very specific, and I'm looking for the client who has a home. They've been living in a home for X amount of time, but they need to sell and they want to size up. So that could be young families, that could be middle-aged families, and they finally have the budget to say, hey, kids are off to college, we want to have the house we've always wanted. It's a wide range. But the first thing is figuring out, what does that client avatar look like? What do they do? How do they have conversations? Most importantly is, what do they do and what are they interested in, right? And so from like a broad perspective, kind of narrowing in, it's figure out who it is, what do they like to do, where do they like to go, where do they hang out, what are their kids doing, where are their kids at in life, what restaurants and gyms are they going to? Like specifically, like if you're that client avatar, what would you be doing? And then you're getting involved in those types of communities, those type of events, those type of social media platforms, those type of groups and followings on social media. From a circle prospecting side of things, you can set up depending on the platform that you use. I know there's Vulcan 7 and RedX and Mojo Dial. I mean, there's a ton of them out there. For me, it was figuring out, okay, geographically, what areas do I want to work? That was kind of like broad picture. Geographically, where do I want to work within my market? And then it was looking at my multiple listing service and saying, okay, I need to look at average price points and figure out what's the average price point that is worth it for me, or the areas that I want to be in, right? For me, on the first side of that, it was the investing side of things. So it needed to be a lower price point. As I'm moving up and I figure out, hey, I want to work a higher price point market, well, I need to make sure that I'm targeting the specific areas. Is that school district? Is that neighborhoods? Is that, a small sliver around a lake? Like, what does that look like? And then past that, the next filter that I would use is, how long have they been in the home, right? Or how much equity might they have in the home? The longer that they lived in the home, probably chances are they're going to be a bit older, right? So the longer they've lived in the home or the more equity they have, there's a higher probability that they've been living there for a while, right? Unless they bought it cash or they put 50% down. If they've been living there for a while, they're probably older, right? It's not necessarily a first-time home buyer. And so that I would look for that. I would kind of look for that middle range. Like I wanted somebody who had been in this home for 8 to about 25 years, right? Which seems like a big range, but when you look at it like that, like I think right now the statistics are most people are moving homes between now, it's like 7 and 9 years. It was about 5 to 7 years 2 years ago, or right during COVID. So a little bit longer duration of when they're living in their home. And so that was kind of like where I took it next. The next thing is knowing your market well enough to be able to speak to it, because your ideal client avatar also has specific areas that they want to live in, right? It's either by school district or it's by entertainment around, whether it's dining or downtown locations. Like, what are these people doing on a daily basis? And then we geographically kind of frame around that as well. So it was just taking a bird's eye view geographically and kind of narrowing down on where these people like to hang out, where they would like to live, and then targeting those specific areas.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Cause yeah, I mean, a lot of people when they hear circle prospecting, and this is, we all can have different terminology, different ways that things can have different meanings to everybody, right? So typically when we think of circle prospect in our industry, though, it's, hey, I'm just gonna build out a list of, I don't know, this 1,000-person subdivision. I'm just gonna call everybody.
Yep.
So you are really, I mean, you're really narrowing it down, getting niche down. So it's not just the shotgun approach. You're being much more laser focused.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, what I do as well, again, I want to compound my listings and where my buyers go under contract as well. So I group circle prospecting as this as well. So if I have a listing, I'm going to call that specific neighborhood where I'm calling the week before we go live. So like coming soon status, if you're going to list as coming soon, the week before we go live, the week we go live, the week we go pending, and the week we close. And then if I have a buyer go under contract and it's an area that I want to service and I would like to work geographically or price point wise, where it fits the ideal area for my client avatar. If I have a buyer, I'm calling that same neighborhood when we go pending and when we close. And then if I am calling on the I have a buyer, if I know someone wants to be in a specific school district or a specific neighborhood, I'll call that neighborhood saying, hey, I have somebody who's seriously considering moving into this neighborhood, ready to make an offer on the right one. Just calling to see if potentially had any thought if the price was right. So those are three different opportunities outside of what would be called like geo farming. Those are like very specific, more so circle prospecting, where I'm calling around my transactions, or when I started, it was around agents within my office, agents on my team. If they had listings or they had buyers going under contract, I'm calling those neighborhoods as well.
So, over the last year or so, your price point has more than doubled, right? I think we were talking before, you were under 200. Now you're more in that 400 range. Is this just from switching avatar, going from an investor focus, to now going kind of that move up buyer focus, or before we more just shotgun, now you're more sniper?
I would say it's a combination of both.
Okay.
So I started off like everything that I was doing when I first started. So whether it was social media, networking events, anything that I was doing was geared towards helping investors. So even I can't tell you how many times I had investors who worked with me, who lived locally to me, who knew me as the investment real estate agent, and I would help them buy a rental property, and then a couple months later found out that they sold their primary and bought a primary, and I'm like, hey, what happened?
Yeah.
Why didn't you use me? Well, I thought you were the investment guy. So like that was like I needed a couple of those for it to really hit. Like I was that specific on what I was doing that like people really viewed me as the investment guy. Like that's who I worked with. And so I changed my thinking of like, okay, how can I now target who where I want to go? And a part of that was how can I cut my transactions in half, make the same income or better, because it's less work. And so I started creating funnels in my social media around that, and meta ads through Facebook and Instagram, like targeting specific people who I wanted to work with. So it was a combination of that. I think, again, it was at first started off as newer into real estate. I was younger at the time. So, most of my friend group were first time home buyers, and it's just lower price points there. Now I'm, because of the personal brand that I've built, the experience that I have and what I show, it shows experience, it shows knowledge, it shows that, hey, Nick works with higher end buyers now. In my market, luxury is considered anything north of 600,000, right? And so, I've closed multiple $1 million transactions, which is in my market, again, considered really high end. And so it's just about what are you putting out there? If I was consistently putting out investment content and building an investment funnel, I would have never seen those. And again, it shows from past experience where I had investors buy investment property with me and then go buy an $800,000 house with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, dude. So much of your business is built off the phones, and phones is difficult for a lot in this industry. I don't know if you went through this, but I know you also work with and help and support and coach and mentor other agents. So, if we kind of start with the basics, man, for like, okay, people that maybe have a fear of rejection, fear of the phones. And again, I don't know if this is something that you went through personally, but, what's advice that, let's just say I'm coming to you and I'm like, all right, Nick, I want you to coach me, dude, but man, I'm freaking scared as shit. You know, I got massive call reluctance, dude. Like,
Right.
how do you start there so we can, you know, just start, and then we'll go deeper with this, but like, let's just start there because I know so
Yeah.
many are just afraid to pick up that phone.
Yeah. So I think for me, very surface level, and this is kind of just the realization that I came to was if I don't call this person, they're never going to know who I am and they're never going to work with me anyways. What do I lose by calling them, trying to have a conversation with them? They're either going to tell me they're going to hang up, they're going to cuss me out, or they're going to end up being interested, want to do business, want to have a conversation. Who knows? You get lucky every once in a while. It's like, hey, yeah, we're thinking about selling. Come out and take a look, right? If you don't take the actual first step, being hung up on it's just as good as not doing it anyway. So you might as well just do it and give yourself an at bat, give yourself an opportunity. So for me, it was in again, if you don't give yourself the opportunity, they're not going to know you. Even if they hang up on you, they don't know who you are. They don't know where you live. They don't know any information about you. It's just the conversation's done and your life starts right back over. There's no harm done in any of that, right? But you might as well give yourself the opportunity to put yourself in that position to potentially take on more business. If you're someone who is completely against it, or if you're an agent, and this is what I coach a lot of my agents on now, is you start in the real estate as a real estate agent. You either fit one of two molds. You either have time and you don't have the money, or you have the money and you don't have the time. Once you start to get busy, you're making the income that you want, but you don't have the time to do some of these things. So that's when we should be hiring, scaling, whether it's an ISA, a VA. You can ultimately scale and grow to have somebody do that for you. At the beginning, you have the time, you have nothing but time. You could, you're gonna fill your time with busy work like the updated Canva and the listing presentation, and all of that is great. But at the end of the day, is it actually moving the ball forward for you? So if you can just commit yourself to a time saying, hey, I'm going to do this for this long. The hardest part is making that first call. Just like anything, going to the gym, the hardest part is just getting to the gym. Once you get there, those are typically the best workouts you had when you were dreading it the entire time and you leave with just a little bit of a sweat. It's like, wow, I feel good. I'm so glad I did that. Same thing applies to when you're calling, right? If that's the source that you're going to be using is calling and going outbound, pick up the phone, get a couple of hangups, get a couple of people cussing you out if that happens. I will say that I circle prospected for a long time. I could count out maybe two hands, probably one where I actually got cussed out. It's not as bad as what people think it's going to be, but once you make that first call, you're in a zone, right? Make 5 calls, make 10 calls, 10 turns into 20, 20 turns into 40, and now all of a sudden you're rolling and it feels good. It's just doing it again the next day that a lot of agents hit. And at that point, again, it's just that realization of like, hey, I did this yesterday, I can do it today. And if I don't give myself the opportunity, I'm not going to have the opportunity. So why not just do it?
Yep. Yep. 100%. And the thing I always tell people too, I'm like, look, dude, because the common thing I guess, dude, I don't want to cold call. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, man, I could see myself doing Google pay-per-click or Facebook ads. I'm like, okay. Either way, you got to get on the phones.
Yeah.
Either way, you got to develop that skill set. Yeah, right. Appointments get set on the phone. I don't care what the lead source is, inbound, outbound. And then if I'm looking at pay-per-click, I'm like, hey, your pay-per-click conversion rates are going to be no different than if you're cold calling. Yeah, right. So it's
Yeah.
still, and you're going to have big percentage of people. How'd you get my number? You're right. Like, no matter what, we got to develop that that skill set.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so you're getting on the phone. Love that perspective of nothing to lose, kind of everything to gain. Kind of a
Yeah.
mindset. How do you get yourself to stay consistent for years? This time block, this time of day, consistent for years at this thing.
Yeah. So, like I said, I came from an athletic background. So everything that I did, I played college baseball. So everything was on a schedule for me. I never operated. I never loved it until I actually got into business and started doing it for myself. But for me, I grew up like, especially college baseball. It's like, and you wake up at this time, you have workouts at this time, then you go to class. In these periods, you have lunch, you have class, then you go to, it's either film or it's actual practice. And then you're going back, the study hour, and then you have this for game preparation on the next day. Like, very regimented. And I actually got into that schedule. My entire schedule right now, if you looked at my schedule, it is blocked out and normally no more than 15 to 30-minute increments, because that's about as long as I can focus on one task. My bigger prospecting hours when I was in the heat of doing the prospecting myself were bigger chunks, right? But everything on my calendar is in there, because if I don't do it, or if it's not in there, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to remember to do it. And if it's there, I'm more likely to see it and say, man, I should probably do this. And then everything I do is color coordinated as well. So green is income producing activities. Yellow is going to be anything that's kind of teeters. Like, could this be something that can be handed off to somebody else? Could this be delegated? Sure, it could bring me a little bit of business, but it's like that in between. And then red is anything that's not going to be income producing. For me, even like my lunch, if I'm not meeting someone at lunch, if I'm not having conversations with people at lunch, like that's red. That's a red 30-minute block in my day. My schedule completely shift after I read 12-week year. And so I have a calendar in front of me every single day, and I have the hottest things that I need to hit on the day, like what's most important. When I'm there, I have my highlighter sitting on my desk. Did I do it? Did I not do it? Or kind of half-ass it, right? And so like that's like a checklist for me. I don't feel good about my day unless I hit everything on this list for the day, and I'm not going to be done until I do it. So the faster I can just get to it, the faster it's going to be done, and I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. So then, so we talked a lot about, okay, narrowing down, niching down, getting on the phones. What are top tips that you have, whether it be for, because some people are scripts people, like for myself, yeah, I think scripts are really important. But once I really want to understand the frameworks, the overall objectives, tonality, because I find things go off script really fast. But I mean, we have to have some type of a guidance, right?
Yep.
So what are like, for anybody that's looking at this, that's one to, because dude, what I love about this is your fate is in your hands. You're not waiting for anything to come to you. If you want to go close 100 homes a year in a very fast period of time, like you've done and done consistently, this is all, like, anybody can do this. You know, obviously it takes a ton of work, right? Like you've been working your ass off, but then from there, it's like, okay, like when it comes to just top tips for actually being on the phones, like what are some of those top tips that you have?
Yeah. So I would say, number one, I would say yes. It truly, if I can do what I have been able to do, anyone can do it, right? I mean, it's find a game plan, find what works, find people who have a game plan or have done something that works, and just do it long enough to see it work for you. And if it doesn't work for you after a period of time, maybe you're either not doing it right or it's just not right for you. So find what you should be doing that actually fits your personality, what you should be doing. But there's something out there. Everything works for someone, right? Like whether it's cold calling, whether it's ads, whether it's door knocking, whether it's open houses, find what really works, master it, and get through it. I would say for the script is what really changed my perspective is, it's a cliche and it gets said all the time, but really my perspective changed when I came from a place of my goal is to provide value and to set the next step. So it's number one, provide value. Number two is set some type of next step. It might be a listing appointment. It might be, hey, I'm going to send you my contact information. That way you can reach out to me anytime. It might be sending you a CMA. It might be sending you a painter's number because you mentioned you need a painter, right? Like I need to give them value, but I also need to set up the next step and what that looks like. So when you come from a place of value, the conversation looks completely different and it sounds different in their ears to whoever's on that prospect, whoever's on the other end of the phone. If you're truly coming from a place of, I'm calling you to give you information so that I can help you, and I'm not asking for anything in return, right? So as simple as, if you are calling about around your listing, right? We're just giving them data as far as how many showings were there, how many offers did you get, what percentage over asking price, like what did that data look like? Everyone wants to know what their home could potentially sell for if they decided to. So if all you're doing is giving them the information of saying, hey, we had 20 people through the open house, we were only live for 48 hours, we ended up getting 10 offers. And, we got offers no less than 500,000, right? Like whatever that looks like, people want to know that because now they're seriously going to consider it. But they also just like to know, maybe it's good for them to refinance and they feel good about it. They can pull some equity out of their home. So number one, I would say on the phone, whether if you have a script or you don't, if your mindset is coming from a place of value that I'm going to make sure they leave with something that's beneficial for them. And then number two is, how can I set the next appointment or set the next step, whether that's an appointment or whatever it might be, right? Obviously, the end goal is to get into the house for a listing appointment and have them sign paperwork. But even if it's, hey, I'm just going to send you my contact information. I know you said you're not interested right now. Not a problem at all. I'm just going to give you the data that we talked about. That way, at least you have it. I'll send over some comparables too. And if you ever need me for any vendors in the area, painters, plumbers, electricians, I'm here. Save my number. I'll send it over to you. Just reach out if I could be of any help. And look forward to chatting with you soon. And you'll be surprised how many people kind of lighten up, even if you are in the middle of a conversation and you bring those things up, like, hey, honestly, I'm just calling to try to give you some information, right? If you have somebody who's being a little bit hostile, like, hey, I'm just trying to give you some information. Most people want to know about the value of their home. I'm not looking to do anything other than that. Sure, I'm here as a contact if you have any questions, but just trying to give you some information that way, figured it might be helpful information for you one way or another. And you just, and that's what it is. People let their guard down and they kind of open up a little bit more, saying, okay, he's not gonna most people think when you're calling them cold, you're going to be asking for something. Like he's asking us to sell, he's asking us if we want to buy, he's asking us if we have a friend or family member looking to do the same. Like that, I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm just here to give. And you'll be surprised how many conversations turn around into them giving you information. You're like, okay, hey, I think next best step is for us to actually meet. Here's why.
So, okay, let's just say you sell a property in this neighborhood, and when you're calling people, calling the neighbors, like typical is kind of hey, just close 123 West Main Street. We can only have one buyer. We had 7 other buyers that property didn't work for. So I'm trying to find these other 7 buyers of property. Do you have possible interest to think about selling? Sounds to me like you're going more, instead of like just going in for the ask or to see what their intent is, kind of more of a, hey, this is just a courtesy call to all the homeowners inside the neighborhood. We just sold your neighbor's home at 123 West Main Street. Just wanted to inform you of how that went, what the property, like you're just going to straight education mode,
Yeah.
not going into an ask yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I go into education as long as they're open to hearing it. So I go into education, and then even my first ask, if you will, is never if they're looking to sell. I always ask, do you know of anyone in the neighborhood? Have you spoken to anyone recently who might consider selling their home, knowing all of this information? Like, I'm not even asking you now. I'm asking if you know someone else. Because I want that guard to come down, because as they're kind of thinking through it, they're either going to think of someone else's name, or they're going to start to think of like, hey, is this worth it for us to do? And so again, I'm not being pushy in the fact of like, hey, I'm asking you specifically, do you want to sell? Like, do you happen to know of anyone in the neighborhood? Have you spoken with anyone lately on your walks or neighborhood events? Has anyone brought up selling if they could get a price that made sense for them? And then you kind of just like that. I just am like so laid back in that ask that, again, it's just making them think, not on their heels, but actually on their toes. Cause they're like, okay, well, he's not like begging us for business. Should we consider selling? Should we consider having a conversation with him?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what your thoughts are on this, dude, of switching that mindset from, hey, I'm here to try to get something out of them to, hey man, I've got no objective or goal here other than just to serve and support and help. Right. Because when it comes to, and I've heard you know, different thoughts on this of, how much is the actual words versus how you say the words.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this with my own agents, right? Like, dude, like we can say the same exact scripts and get 2 night and day results, even though we're using the same words.
Yeah.
So, how you say the words is so much more important than the words themselves. The words themselves are kind of irrelevant, right? At least what I found not to say they're irrelevant, they do play a part. But do you think that perspective just change your overall energy, tonality that people can feel? Or did that also just change up your total scripting in your total approach by making that pivot and shift?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think a big piece of it is in the tonality, and what I have heard, I don't know where it was from, and I definitely didn't come up with this, but like it's the phrase, like if you just simply say the man shot his wife, the man shot his wife, depending on what words you put emphasis on, the man shot his wife, the man shot his wife. Now, so the first one is the man did it, and then we're saying the man did it, but he shot his wife, and then we're saying the man shot or the man, right? It's like questioning now. It's like, did the man do it? Did somebody else do it? Did the man shoot his wife, or was there something else? Like, it's a really gruesome example, but it's like it puts on the point on where that point of emphasis is on what words you're using and how you're saying it. Because that sentence, just like you were saying, that sentence is the same across the board. But where you put tonality and where you focus on and how your voice inflects is really how someone's going to interpret what you're saying. And so we want someone to, again, not be thinking on their heels, backing up, putting up a guard, but like interested in hearing more. Like, we're leaning forward, we're now interested. So how can we change our tonality and the way that we're saying things, where you and I are saying the exact same thing, but like you said, you could have 2 potentially different outcomes.
Well, sorry. I was coughing, so I accidentally muted my mic for a second there. Yeah, no, and look, I've heard like Chris Voss and Tony Robbins. I can't remember the formula they operate by, but it's now this is going to be for in person, where they're like, hey, dude, only 7% is actually the words. The rest is, tonality, body language. Then from phone sales, I've heard, everything from 70% tonality, pausing, pacing, only 30% words. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to know that, but same thing that you've, witnessed is how you say it is much more important than what you say.
Yeah,
I find too many
100%.
people are just like, oh, dude, what's the script? I'm like, okay, yeah, I can give you the script. Just like I can give you the listing presentation, I can give you the buyer consultation, but that doesn't mean anything,
Right.
right? It's like, how well do you present it?
Yep. 100%.
Okay, so next thing when it comes to this, dude, is expectations for timelines. Because like, dude, doing 100 units a year yourself, that's a lot of freaking deals, dude, right? But like, what is that? I know that you mentioned, okay, here's the amount of hours, right? Because what I find, and the reason why I'm asking this is too many people stop too quick. They don't give things enough time. It's like Napoleon Hill's, Think Grow Rich, stopping 3 feet short of gold. Like what is it, with your overall numbers? I'm guessing that you track. I mean, is it, hey, 2,000 dials, 200 conversations to one listing taken average? Like, give us kind of some expectations so people know, okay, they're not just doing 50 dials and be like, oh shit, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. And then also like an expected time frame. Like, hey man, like you got to give this, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, like you got to give it, X amount of time to really start to see good results.
Yeah. So I'll hit the last part first. So I think for timeline, right? I always recommend to people, no matter what you're going to do it for 6 months. Give it 6 months of effort because there's a 1 to 2 month time period where you're in learning mode. Like you're just learning how to do the thing, whatever the thing is. And then there's 1 to 2 months of actual practice and implementation. You got to do the repetitions. You're learning it first for 2 months. You're now practicing it for 2 months. And if you're on a 6 month timeline, learn for 2, practice for 2, master for 2, right? Like we've picked things up from the previous 4 months to where everything's kind of like, I know what to say, how to say it, where to go, where to search, whatever that is, what funnel to set in play. So I always recommend to people do it for 6 months, learn, practice, master. So that's the timeline piece. I think for daily metrics or weekly metrics, annual metrics, it's really hard and it depends on what you're doing, right? And your metrics are going to come from you alone. But a piece of that is also keeping in mind that at the beginning phase, you're just learning, then you're practicing, then you're actually mastering. So you have to do it long enough to actually get tangible metrics because you could be terrible at whatever it is, whether it's door knocking, open houses. You could be terrible at circle prospecting. You could be terrible at running ads. You could be absolutely terrible for the first half of that. But if you're running your metrics off of including that, and now that system or that structure is completely shifted, the question becomes, is it even relevant to keep those numbers in mind, right? So we have to do it for long enough to get good at it. And then we decide, hey, is this worth doing? That's why I always recommend do something for at least 6 months and then do it until you truly master it, double down on it, do more of it or delegate it out until you pick up on the next thing, whatever that might look like or whatever that might be. Generally speaking, if you are setting yourself up as, again, building the brand authority, setting up the funnels accordingly to where you have people who are reaching out to you for something specific, obviously those numbers are going to convert at a much higher rate, right? There's also an element of being a real estate agent where we all want leads, we all want qualified leads, and we all want ready to act leads. How can we position our business and what we do on a daily basis to put ourselves in that spot, right? Like as often as possible where we have leads coming in, they're qualified and they're ready to go. That's the ideal format. And then past that becomes the busy work of the follow-up, the nurturing, and all of those things. So how can we automate those things? My business would, I have a transaction coordinator, I have a couple showing agents, but I act as the solo agent, right? And I would not be able to close 100+ deals a year if I didn't have those team members, transaction coordinator, showing agents, of course, but also funnels in place where leads are coming to me because I can't be 100% outbound, right? Like I've done well with that, but now I have funnels in place, whether it's social media, whether it's paid ads, whatever that might be, where people are coming to me. And then I have the automations in the back end figured out to where I know I need to be reaching out with this information on this timeline and it's automated for me. It's going out. I'm not the one that's sitting there in a text message or sending the email any longer. I've set up my nurturing campaign so that it's automatically sending updates to people or asking questions when they need to be asked. And so that's a big piece of of that is the delegation piece is how can I focus on the income producing activities and outsource the rest so I'm not doing any of the busy work. And then from there it's how can I delegate or automate the busy work so that it becomes easier and I'm working less hours than what I would be so that I can spend more time on whatever it might be, whether it's income activities, whether it's time with family, whether it's on vacation, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, dude, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I mean, it takes time, man. You know, like I'm guessing, like okay, your first year or two, okay, the brand stuff that you're building on social, and even the SOI stuff, you might have had some deals pop, but like that was probably a very small percentage, where the cold calling was a big percentage.
Yeah.
You know, but now
Yep.
that you've been doing this 4 or 5 years, like that equation starts to change. You know, like one of my really good friends, amazing realtor, and she's got a team, but then not counting the team, just herself. Like she'll do, 70 deals a year, just working part time by herself, not counting the hundreds of units they do with the team. But everybody's like, well, like, how do you do that? Well, dude, she's been doing this 10 years. Yeah, right. That more than half of that is just personal repeat referral business. The other is all through social media, but she's built up such a great brain. Like she never has to pick up the phone.
Mhm.
But now this is somebody I started mentoring when she was brand new. Like her first few years did not look like these last few. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
it takes that time. So for you, like, when did you start seeing that inflection point? Like 2, 3 years into it, where you started to start now to see good inbound outside of just the outbound.
Yeah, so I would say for me, because I was solely focused on outbound to begin with, because I knew I needed to build my database. Like I needed to build an actual SOI. Like I said, when I got into the game was relatively young, didn't have a ton of people, definitely not nobody selling, nobody owned a home. Nobody in my friend group owned a home yet. They were all like, if I
Yeah.
was working with my initial friend group, it was all first time home buyers, right? And so I didn't have enough of a database to have that repeat referral business and not enough time in the game to have repeat business, right? So for me, it was how can I build my database up, and a lot of that was outbound. And you could even argue a lot of that is even in running ads, like that's outbound. We're targeting specific demographics or geographic locations, and we're setting that up specifically. Is I'm now targeting people. It is outbound. There's an outbound effort. Calling, circle prospecting, same thing. There has to be some type of outbound effort, but it's getting yourself into the right vehicle, right? Because you got to find what's going to work. And again, something works for everyone, but like what actually moves the ball forward for you, and what are you seeing that's actually working? And I recommend spending at least 6 months on that. Try to learn it, practice it, master it. And then once you're in a good position, you have some metrics to go off of, you know whether it's worth your time. And I would almost argue if you're going to spend 6 months of intentional effort, it's going to be worth your time. But again, at the front end of that, if you're a brand new agent, or whether you're young or older, or whether you've been in the business for a while, you just kind of been doing it part time and you're going to jump into this full time, your efforts need to be on having as many conversations as you can and getting your name in front of as many people as you can. So whether that's outbound calls, whether that's holding open houses, whether that's door knocking, whether that's running direct response ads, whatever that is, you have to get your name out. And once your brand, if you're building your brand on the back end of all of that, and you're becoming the expert of whatever that might be, whether it's first time home buyers or just, listing lake property or divorce listings, like whatever that is, you have to build your brand on the back end of that. And that's when you start to see it come inbound, but you can't get there until you go outbound for a period of time.
Yep. Yep. 1000%, dude. So then, all right, man. So if we switch gears, okay, last time you and I talked about a year ago, I think that you were with a different company, switched to a different brokerage. What led to that move?
Yeah, so for me, the switch for brokerages was something that I was considering for a while, and then I researched for a bit of time as well. It wasn't right away because I was seeing success, right? I was seeing success in what I was doing. It took a while for me to, and I didn't get into my first brokerage thinking like, hey, I'm at this brokerage because of the brokerage name. Like that, it was nowhere close to what I was thinking. I knew that I had to build my own personal name. Once I started to close transactions, I realized how much of the transaction hamster wheel I was on. It's like, if I'm going to continue to be successful and make the income that I want, provide the life for my family that I want, I have to keep doing what I'm doing. There's no other way around it. And so the reason that I joined where I'm at now, which is EXP, the reason I joined EXP was because there was multiple income streams based on the things that I was already doing. I wasn't doing anything different to get these additional income streams. It was selling property, capping out, doing the volume that I was doing, and helping other agents to get into that vehicle and into that method. And I actually started to receive monetary and residual benefits from that just by getting into the right vehicle for, again, doing the same thing that I was doing previously, just not seeing a reward from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I know that lots of watching this podcast, know that I also made the move to EXP about 5 months ago. But like, dude, like, we're not at EXP together. Like, I didn't even know until a week ago that you had made the move. I think you've
Yep.
been there longer than me now, right? Almost a year.
Yeah, a little over a year now.
Yeah, yeah. So, this was something that I just discovered. I was just curious, dude, of I know what led me there, but yeah, man, like and you, dude, you're smarter than I am. It took me 20 years to make this realization in this industry, but it got to a point where I'm like, man, like, sick and tired of, yeah, popping all these deals, doing all, but like getting nothing in return. We're now here. It's like you said it perfectly, dude, for doing the same things that we're doing anyways. Dude, we're getting stock options. Like, I'm getting, anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 a month of stock just given to me. I'm
Yep.
not buying it. I bought
Yep.
zero stock, but I have thousands of dollars now with the stock in 5 months that's just been awarded to me for doing what I'm already doing. And then,
Yep.
yeah, with rev share, making, again, already the point where I mean, 3 months into this, I'm making $8,000 a month in rev share.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Where it's like, again, just doing what I was already doing before, over here, and just getting rewarded for it, man. And
Yeah.
and what is like outside of that? Like, okay, that's maybe what led us to join. I'm just curious of what's been some of your kind of favorite parts now that you're here. Like, what's maybe shocked you, surprised you, impressed you, like, since you've been now at the company?
I think the biggest thing that has and I don't know if it shocked me, but it's what I'm actually like it's just surprising that I'm actually seeing it at such a high level, and that's the amount of collaboration.
Yeah.
Like where I was at previously, there was zero collaboration. Everybody was on their own because we were not incentivized, whether it was by a plaque or financially incentivized to help somebody else progress in their business. With EXP, where I'm at now, you are fully incentivized to help other people that are what would be considered in your downline. You're fully incentivized to help them succeed at a super high level because you see a financial gain from that. There's financial incentive for them to do well. So you're incentivized to help other agents, and that collaboration piece of it of, again, before it was you're where I was at before, you're getting training from, to be completely honest, you're getting training from people who could not make it as a real estate agent. They needed some type of salary pay. And so they got transitioned into coaching or training so they could pay the bills. So you're now listening to somebody who has heard the things but has never been able to do the things. At EXP, the people who do the training on a daily basis, I think it's 40 to 50 hours a week, you have to hit certain milestones as far as production in order to do that. You have to be producing in order to give success tips, right? So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it is we're all financially incentivized for it to go that route and for everyone to do better, because if the better the company does, the better that you do as an agent, because you're going to be making residual income off of that. And for me, that residual paycheck started really small, right? Like I didn't come over with a big group of people. And I have never been super outbound. Like, I am not a recruiter. I don't claim to be. Like I stick to what I'm doing, and it just happened that, people see what I do and they saw that I made a change, and people see my success and want to hear more about it. And that first revenue share check that I got was $500, right? But $500 pays my car bill, pays groceries for the month, right? Like I got a glass plaque that I no longer have. I probably lost it within the month that I got it for doing the production that I did. But EXP has now paid my groceries, even if you're saying just $500 a month, even if you were to get that for the rest of your life, EXP is now paying your car bill. EXP is now paying your groceries for the rest of your life on a monthly basis. It's like, now think about compounding what that can do for you. And again, it just comes from doing what you're normally doing, having conversations with people in production. People see what you do. Like I'm not recruiting by any means, and people are still interested, and so it grows.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I was having a good conversation with a buddy of mine that he's been there about 5 years now, but we've known each other for about 8. And it's the same thing. Like, he's like, hey, dude, like, I'm just focused on my production. He's a great, solid producer in his market, in his area. And he goes, dude, just not actively, just completely passively. It's like over 5 years, man, just from people reaching out, like, hey, I'm thinking about making a switch. You happy over here? He's like, dude, over 5 years, brought in like 18. Like, I can't remember exactly, but it's something like 18. But then that's resulted into like 260. Right? Where he's like, dude, I haven't in the last 3 years, I haven't made at least 6 figures.
Right.
just for some, I mean, it's just free money. He goes, dude, like
Right.
my previous brokerage, those same 18 people probably would have joined at the previous brokerage. Yeah,
Right.
right. Just because he's like, yeah, come join us. It's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's
Yep.
not even being intentional and active at it. And
Yep.
yeah, I love it, dude. And now that we have co-sponsorship, so for anybody that's maybe interested, because now we have co-sponsorship, okay, even though Nick and I are with different uplines, downlines, where before it was like you had to pick and choose. Now, if you're like, hey man, like I, really like these guys, really like this conversation. They have different, skill sets. There's some things I'm sure that, Nick and I both have that are, that are similar, but then we definitely have opposite skill sets too, where it's like, hey man, I want to get coached and mentored and supported by Joshua Smith, but also Nick. Now through co-sponsorship, you guys have that opportunity to do so. So I'll have links below where you can reach out and set that conversation. If that's something that you guys want to take advantage of, where again, you get all my coaching mentorship support 100%, available for you. But then you also can get Nick's support, which is what I love about this new co-sponsorship in the overall company. But then Nick, okay, we get a lot of people that watch and listen to this. Like, dude, for me, I was the biggest critic, the biggest hater of EXP for 10 years. I was like, this shit show. I talked more crap about EXP probably than anybody else that I knew. And I'll admit, like for me, that was just being naive, not getting it, not understanding it. A lot of times when we have judgments about something, it's because we don't truly get it or understand it. And that was the camp I fell under. But there's a lot of people that maybe watch and listen to this that are like, dude, I'm good where I'm at. I don't want to make a move. So I know that you also have coaching available, for those that don't partner with, you or us at EXP. So what can you kind of walk us through like what that looks like, or if somebody's interested in getting mentored by you, like what that looks like, best place to go to learn more about it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I have been coaching, training, mentoring agents for the last 3 years. And again, it's just taking when I first started in my career, it was picking the brains of top producing real estate agents. What works, find common themes, put it into my business. And I've been able to, again, close north of 100 transactions every single year by myself, a couple showing agents and a transaction coordinator. And these are the things that worked for me. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I promise you that. And so I really get a lot of joy now out of helping other real estate agents because I know what providing for a family looks like. I know what looking for financial freedom looks like. I know what wanting some more time and location freedom looks like. And so what we do is, we have a whole support staff completely done with you. We walk you hand in hand every step of the way. We have weekly coaching calls. And so we help agents get from where they're at to where they want to be. I mean, point blank. And it's just about implementing the right things. How do we set up the funnels to put you in the best position so that not only is your brand building, but also you have people reaching out to you, right? Highly qualified, motivated, ready to go. How can we position you as that authority figure? Social media is a big piece right now. We help you optimize and use social media, right? How do we actually do it, right? It's kind of the saying of like, they tell you if you post once a day, you'll start to see some traffic. You'll start to see likes and followers. And the reality is you might, but that also can equate to nothing in real estate. So how do we actually set up your social media accordingly? How do we automate your back end? How do we make sure that you're doing follow-up? How do we give you that time back so that it's done on autopilot? Your entire back end with nurturing and follow-up and everything is done for you. You're still in the day-to-day of the income producing activities. And then from there, how do we help you scale, right? How do we help you grow? And so having standing operating procedures or SOPs from the very beginning of like, what do I need to do? I just got started to, hey, I've been doing this for 40 years and I don't know where to go next. I need an exit strategy. I need something to get out of this. How should I structure my business so that it's still profitable? And yeah, I'm happy to help have a conversation with anybody who's looking for any type of assistance, whether it's EXP or not. I'm happy to help and have conversations around what your current business looks like and how can, even in just a conversation, how, what couple of pieces can we pull out that would help today?
Yep. Yeah, 100%, dude. And where is the best place or places, Nick, for people that maybe want to jump into this with you, learn more about it with you? Like, where do they go? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would say one of two ways or both. Follow me and reach out to me on Instagram. It's Nick Harris _ realtor. So Nick Harris _ realtor. And then I'll give you my personal number out there. Whenever you want to shoot me a text, give me a call. That's fine. So it's 248-875-2299. Reach out anytime, either of those methods, whatever you like to communicate on works for me.
Yeah, and I'll say this for those of you that maybe do have interest about doing a partnership with Nick and I at EXP where you get both of us, right? You get his coaching, his training, his mentorship, plus along with all of my coaching, training, mentorship. So the best of, kind of both worlds there, whether you're reaching out to me or Nick, just make sure that you tell, Nick or I that, hey, I heard out here on the podcast, I want to partner with, you and Nick, Josh, or I want to partner Nick with you and Josh, because otherwise we don't know, right? So just make sure that you communicate that, because we don't want to, there's a process that we have to go through for co-sponsorship, and we don't want to accidentally get you signed up in a way where you're not getting what you want. So make sure that you bring that to our attention on there. And, Nick, man, truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, away from your family, man, away from your business to be here. This has been awesome, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And hopefully everybody that listens got some value out of it. And again, can't thank you enough. Thanks for what you put out there. Just you alone have helped my business grow, and just listening to you. So I hope everybody gets something from this.
Yep, that truly means a lot. Truly appreciate your support. And those watching, listening, as always, keep crushing it, keep kicking ass, and we will see you next time. Peace. Hey, Joshua Smith here, and I truly hope that you got a lot of value out of this GSD Mode podcast. As always, information without implementation is the start of delusion. Information is not power. Information only becomes power when you take the information that you learn, implement it, take massive action on it. That gives you the power to go out there and create that life that you know you want and deserve. So make sure that you take those nuggets that you learned here today, implement those, and take massive action on those things. And just a quick reminder, I highly encourage you to check out gsdmode.com for more additional free resources, more additional free training. And look, I really encourage you to schedule a call with me where we can talk about, discuss what a potential partnership could look like. I encourage you to be open-minded. That does not hurt to just check out what this opportunity looks like. Everything I do is zero pressure. I'm just going to walk you through what we're doing, what we have to offer, all the amazing coaching support that you have full access to for free, and how we can help you take your business to the next level. If you think it's a fit for you, great. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. I promise you, not going to hard sell you, not going to push you, none of that BS. You don't have to worry about any of that. This is just an opportunity where we might be able to go out there and do something big together. I'm a big believer that we can do more together than we can apart. So I encourage you to go to gsdmode.com/partner, where you and I can jump on a 30-minute Zoom call together. Again, zero pressure, but we can jump on a 30-minute Zoom call together and just walk you through what this opportunity can look like, what a partnership could look like, answer any questions that you have, give you all the information that you need to make your best informed decision. So if you want to further discuss and explore what a partnership could look like with me at EXP, go to www.gsdmode.com/partner. Thank you again for watching and listening and all your support. Keep crushing it, keep kicking ass, and I will see you next time. Peace.